All right, today we have 8 3-digit by 1-digit multiplication problems. The guided practice we did together in class. The partner work you may have done with a partner, or possibly you did it by yourself, or possibly with me. So now we're going to be working on independent work, page 1. I am going to start off by leading you through one, and then I'm going to slowly back away and allow you to do more and more work. So let's begin. All right, let's begin by reading the directions. Number 1, estimate to find an appropriate quotient. So first we're going to estimate. Number 2, use an area model to show multiplication. We're going to show an area model. Number 3, use partial products to show multiplication, partial products. And number 4, use the distributive property to represent the problem another way. So down here we have the distributive property of multiplication. I'm going to divide up my page so that I have nice clean areas to be working in. All right, let's begin. We're going to begin by taking the problem 296 and multiplying it 5 times. Now, 296 is close to what number? When we estimate, we're going to choose what number it's close to. Since this is a 3-digit number, I'm going to round to the nearest hundred. So 296, is it closer to 200 or 300? 300. So we're going to take 300 times 5. Now, because I see 2 zeros at the end of 300, I know that my 1s and my 10s places are going to have zeros. So then I'm going to say, all right, what's 5 times 3? 5, 10, 15. 15. My number should be about 1,500. Now, because my estimate is larger than the number that we started with, I know that my answer needs to be a little bit less than 1,500. Let's do an area model to find this. So using an area model, we look at our problem again and we say, all right, I have 296 times 5. Please make sure you write that in your area model portion. 296 times 5. I have 3 digits here, so my box is going to have 3 places. As you draw your area model, please make sure it doesn't take up the whole space because we still need to have room to add our partial products. So we see that we have 3 digits, which means I need a 1s, a 10s, and a 100s place. So as we look at this, what is the value of the hundreds place? There is a 2, but we want to know what the value is. The 2 is worth 200. What is the value of the tens place? The 9 in the tens place has a value of 90. And in the ones place, the 6 has a value of 6. So we're going to write it in expanded form, 200 plus 90 plus 6. And we're going to multiply each of those by 5. So I'm going to start in my ones place because that's the easiest place for me. And I'm going to say, okay, in the ones place, I have 6 times 5. I'm really good at multiplying by 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. 6 times 5 is 30. Then I'm going to move to my tens place. And I say, okay, I have 90 times our 5 over here. 90 times 5. Well, I see there's a 0 that's going to be in the ones place. and then I'm going to multiply. 9 times 5 is 45. So 90 times 5 would be 450. Then in the hundreds place, I have 200 times 5. I see there are 2 zeros in my ones and tens place. And then I say, okay, what's 5 times 2? 5 times 2 is 10. So I must add 10 before my 2 zeros. Now we have to be able to find our answer to our area model. So in order to find our total, what is this whole thing worth? Because we know this is worth 1,000, this is 450, and this is 30. We need to add them together. So now that I've put them in standard algorithm, you need to add them up and find your answer here. Once you found that, is your answer a little bit less than 1,500? It should be. If not, try adding these up again. Now we're going to move on to partial products. In partial products, we write our problem 296 times 5 vertically. So just like in subtraction and addition, we always start in the ones with multiplication. So I'm going to circle my ones times my ones. On the side over here, I just drew this line to keep myself organized. I have to say, okay, when I multiply 6 times 5, what do I get? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. I get 30. So my 3 goes in my tens place and my 0 goes in my ones place. Then we go on to our tens. We need to multiply our 9 tens times 5. 9 tens is 90, and we're multiplying that times 5. So I can see here that there's going to be a 0 in my ones place, right there. And then 9 times 5 is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 45. So my 5 will go in my tens place and my 4 will go in my hundreds place. Then we're going to multiply our hundreds place times our 1 here. So I know that this 2 is worth 200. 200 times 5. Well, you can see I have 2 zeros, which will go in my ones and my tens place. And then I know 2 times 5 is 10. So the 0 and the 10 will go in my hundreds place, and the 1 will go in the thousands place. I'm going to add them up. As you can see, this is the same as this. So when you add them up, you should get the same answer you got here, and it should be less than 1,500. Super. Let's do the distributive property really quickly. So our area model is where it's easiest to see the distributive property. We see that we took 5 times 200 plus 90 plus 6. So I keep 200 plus 90 plus 6 because those were all originally one number, 296. So we would say I took 5 times 200 plus 90 plus 6. And 200 plus 90 plus 6 has to stay together because it was our number 296. There is another way that we can write this. So just like in our area model, we see that we also did 200 times 5, 90 times 5, and 6 times 5, which we can also see that over here. And it doesn't matter if you write it from largest to smallest or smallest to largest. It's still the same thing. So I'm going to write both. In our area model, we started by writing 200 times 5 plus 90 times 5 plus 6 times 5. But in our partial products, we started with 6 times 5 plus 90 times 5 plus 200 times 5. But either way, it's correct. And it doesn't matter which order they go in, because multiplication is commutative. Great job. I hope you feel really proud of yourself for you not just estimating, but using the area model, partial products, and showing the distributive property. All right, we're going to move on to the second problem. This time, I've already drawn my line so that I can be really organized. So let's start with our estimate. This time, we have 8 times 605. In multiplication, it does not matter what order the numbers are in. We can still model it the same way. So, I'm going to say, all right, what number is 605 close to? That was easy. Obviously, I know it's close to 600. And 8, I'm going to keep the same because I can easily do this problem. So I see that there are 2 zeros in 600. So that tells me, since they're at the end, that when I multiply, I'm going to have 2 zeros in the ones and the tens place. And then I'm going to look and I'm going to say 8 times 600s is going to start in the hundreds place. So 8 times 6, this is kind of a toughie fact, is 48. So 8 times 600 is 4,800. Now, because when I rounded down, our answer is going to be a little bit bigger than this because the answer that we rounded to is smaller than the actual number. So my answer is going to be greater than 4,800. All right, area model time. I love the area model. We look and we say, all right, I have 1 digit times 3 digits, hundreds, tens, and ones. So in my area model, I'm going to need hundreds, tens, and ones. Go ahead and write your values for 605 here. And then we're going to multiply it times our 1-digit number, 8, here. Pause the video and do that. So now I have the values 600 plus 0 plus 5. That is the same as 605 times 8. Over here we have our 8. Now up here you're going to write each of the things we're multiplying. So in this box we're multiplying 600 times 8. That's going to be written here. Then in our next box we have 0. So we're going to be multiplying 0 times 8. And then in our last box, we have 5. So we're going to be multiplying 5 times 8. I want you to take the time and multiply each of these and put your answers here. Then go ahead and add them up. Pause the video so you can give yourself time to do this. Now, underneath here, I have drawn another area model, which actually, when I do the math, has the exact same answer when I add it up over here. But I did not add the 0. But I still have 600 plus 5, which is still 605. So is it necessary to do the 0? No, it's not. This is still correct. For me, it's easier for me to see the tens place, but I have to know if I see this area model that it is still correct because we still have our value 605 times 8. We just know that 0 times 8, 0 times anything will always be 0. So every time we have a 0 in our one of our places up here, we're always going to have a 0 as our partial product. So it's not necessary to do that. I just wanted to point that out. You should have already added up your 3 numbers. And I'm going to add up mine down here. And see if your answer is a little bit greater than 4,800. Now I told you I was going to slowly step back a little bit. So this is me stepping back. You have to solve these and put your partial products together. Now these are called partial products when we're adding them up here because the product is when you multiply 2 numbers. And here's a part, here's a part, here's a part. So we're adding up the parts. Okay, now we're going to go over and use the partial product strategy. Write your number, your equation, 605 times 8. Try not to write it too big because we know we need a lot of space down here. So we're going to start. First, we're going to start by multiplying our ones. 5 times 8. And remember, I need to draw my line here so that I keep it organized. Now, once I get good at not writing anything there, I don't have to draw my line. So I have 5 times 8 is, count by 5s, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So my 4 goes in my 10s, my 0 goes in my 1s. Next, we're going to take 0 tens times 8. Well, 0 times anything is always going to be 0. So when we took 0 times 8, we still got 0. Then we are multiplying our hundreds, 6 hundreds times 8. It's not 6 times 8, but the 6 is in the hundreds place, so we are writing 600 times 8. 600 times 8. I see that I have 2 zeros because I know that my answer has to be in the hundreds. So in the hundreds, 6 times 8 is 48. And I'm going to add them up. You should have gotten the same answer here as you got here and here. And it should be a little bit greater than 4,800. Now let's quickly go into our distributive property of multiplication. So when we look at the distributive property, as we're multiplying, there's multiple ways that we could do this. We can either say, well, I took 600 times 8 plus 0 times 8 plus 5 times 8. Or you say, well, I know that I don't need to multiply my 0 times 8, so I could just write 600 times 8 plus 5 times 8. So I'm going to write that down here. Then we can also say, well, I know that I could also multiply 8 times 600 plus 0 plus 5. So because 605 is one number, I'm going to keep 600 plus 0 plus 5 together and then multiply it by 8. Likewise, I could do the same thing for this area model. Instead of just doing 600 plus 0 plus 5, I could just do 600 plus 5 times 8. And remember, it doesn't matter which we do first, times 8 or 605, because that's really the same thing. So 8 can be at the beginning or at the end. Super job. Thanks for hanging with me. Let's go to the next problem. Now on page 2, I would like you to do this by yourself. So let's make sure we have our lines drawn so we can keep our paper organized. So you're going to begin by estimating, then drawing your area model. Make sure it has hundreds, tens, and ones. And then partial products, starting by writing your parabola, 514 times 9. And leaving some space over here for your partial products. And you're going to add up your partial products to find your answer. Make sure you have your hundreds, tens, and ones and that you're multiplying it all by 9. Then in your distributive property, you'll find your distributive property here and here. Or here. I'm going to help you estimate really quick. So 514 is close to 500 times 9. We know that our number is going to have 2 zeros in the ones and tens, so we will start in the hundreds. So 9 times 5 is 45. Our number is going to be a little bit bigger. 514 is larger than 500. So our answer will be greater than 4,500. Same thing on the second one. 846 times 4. Well, I'm going to keep my times 4. And I'm going to say 846. If I round it to the nearest hundred, is it going to be closer to 800 or 900? 800. So the same thing. My ones and my tens place will both have zeros, and I will be finding what goes in my hundreds. So 8 times 4, 32. My estimate is much smaller than the actual number, so it's going to be less than, my answer should be less, so this number will be greater than. So my answer should be less than 3,200. All right, so here I have my area model, my hundreds, tens, and ones. I have my equation written here, my equation written in partial products, and on the side I will have my numbers that I'm multiplying. Our distributive property will be found here, which I will highlight in blue, or it could be found here when we write our numbers at the top, or these three added together. Good luck.